Let's talk about the export tab. So when you're done retouching and would like to perhaps send a preview out or would like to export multiple copies, one like for YouTube banners or Facebook photos, or there's a ton of different options, and we're going to talk about that today. So under the export tab here, the first thing by default you should do is at the bottom here you have process. So I'm going to click on process, and off the bat, there's some default settings you could use, like Facebook pictures, which by default works best at 2048 or 960. And it has a couple of different options as well here. You can see it says a group header. Honestly, this is so helpful for me, especially like a profile header if you're trying to change your profile. And Facebook, etc. Having a story, you can have a Instagram story as well. It's really great. I love these default ones by itself, and honestly, that's pretty much most what I use. And let's start with that then. Let's say we're going to export a photo for Facebook, 2048 pixels, and when you apply that setting, what it does automatically is it uses the best options for you. You can see change the resolution 72, sRGB, quality at 70, JPEG. You can also keep original. So if your original is at 300, for example, you can keep that. Up to you. It exports based on the long edge, meaning it's going to resize to 2048 on the long edge, typically. And yep, other than that, all the other kind of basic settings, you don't want to keep your layers because it's a JPEG. Basically, I wouldn't recommend changing anything else. The one thing here at the bottom, though, you'll see it says sharpen preset and grain preset. If you remember in the sharpening video, we went ahead and added a preset. So we like this one, and I did that. You can actually apply sharpening at the end just by applying your preset. The same thing goes for grain. So if you remember in the grain video, I have my own little grain preset here, and we did big grain as an example. But you get the idea. You can add sharpening grain as a preset, so you're not adding it to the image directly, and it's just adding it on export, which is so cool. I don't have to worry about that as well. You can also execute an action as well. So if you have a color grading action you want to apply on export specifically, then you could do it there. So you're not kind of clogging up your layer stack, which is actually a pretty big deal now that I think about it. So yeah, that's cool. And then once that's done, I hit process, and it's going to do all the things for me, and then just basically say, where do you want to save it? And yeah, I just put it into a folder called export option. I'm going to say open. That's it. When you hit open, that's it. It's done. It just basically means that's where it's going to save it. Okay. You don't have to wonder like, oh, it didn't say anything. Where did it go? Once you click on that open, it's done. And how do you know it's done? We are going to look into our images. So you can see here, it says Facebook. This is the one, Facebook 2048 pixels. You'll see at the top, Facebook post picture 2048. And that's the one that it saved. Okay. Here's the other cool part about this. Let's say we go into process again. We have kind of like, let's say a Facebook picture post, right? Maybe we want to override it a little bit, increase the quality, maybe if you want to, whatever, and you want that as a preset that you can access on the home page. So what I'm going to do is at the bottom here, you can keep the same name if you prefer as a recipe, or you can rename it if you want. I'm just going to call it FB for Facebook because I know that's the one I'm going to use all the time. And I'm just going to hit save. And when I do that, now here on the export tab, I don't have to click on process, and I don't have to go on this little area here and click on the setting here. I'm just going to go back. Now that it's there, I just click on check and then process, and then it runs through the whole gamut for me. And then I could save it again there if I want to. And it does, just like that. You'll see now it has another copy, right? It says FB, and that's my Facebook recipe, which is cool. I can do all kinds of other stuff too. If I want to edit the recipe, I click on edit recipe, and then I can delete it if I want to. I could rename it if I want to, etc. I can also adjust the parameters of that recipe off the bat. Okay. When I click on plus, it just means that if you would like to add another one by default, you can do that too from here. The plus sign will basically, kind of start from scratch again. And I could do the same thing. I could use the defaults if I want to, create my own, whatever. And then, when I have my recipe name here, I just hit save, and then boom, I could name it to whatever, testing, and then just, save, and then that's it. And then suddenly now the testing is there, just like that. So yeah, another really cool thing here is that whether I click on plus or process, it takes me to the same page. And what you'll notice is that over here on default settings, it has one called like Instagram post 1 of 1, or it has a Facebook group header 1 of. It doesn't really give you sizes like that. But once I click on Facebook group header, for example, everything else is it's uneditable, and I'll show you why. What happens is whenever I come down here and when I click on process, watch what happens. It now gives me this little secondary screen. And what it's telling me is that any area inside of, or outside, I should say, of these red and yellow lines shows me specifically what is going to be cropped as the group header, okay? And you can even see here, it says the area inside the overlay will be exported. Move the elements into the viewport. When you're done, click the export button, okay? And when I'm done, let's say I want this to be my Facebook header, this like top of the head and bottom of the waist. I'm going to click on play. And what happens is it does the rest for me. I'm going to say open again. And then now over here, you can see here it says Facebook group header, and it cropped it for you automatically. So it takes cropping into account as well, which is nice. So if you don't want to know the dimensions and stuff like that, it's super handy, and you can make a little recipe if you prefer. But there's also more. So if you have like Instagram 1 of 1 post, and then you can say process, and then now you'll see it does the same thing. It kind of has the red area here, which is super handy to get an exact idea of what 1 of 1 is going to look like. And then say open again. I go back to my export little window here, and you can see here it's a 1 of 1. So there you go. That's multiple ways of using it. Also on the export tab, let's just run through everything just to double check we had everything. You can see color profile. You can do sRGB, Adobe RGB, ProPhoto RGB, or original, which means whatever it was opened in. But I would prefer, just doing the ones that you would like to use and ensuring that's selected. I think that's it. You can see unit instead of pixels. You could do inches, centimeters, very similar to what you're used to when you export something. Allow upscale. So if the dimensions that you are exporting to are bigger than the actual photo, allowing upscale will allow Photoshop to, or this panel to upscale this image in order to fit the export settings that you're going for. Keeping layers is good if you are exporting to TIFF or PSD, or you're trying to keep the layers in your layer stack on the export. But if not, it will just flatten it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And of course, you have those presets, and that's it. And then you can rename again your recipe if you so choose to. And that's pretty straightforward, actually. The rest is just seeing if you like any of these. And Instagram Stories is a very handy one, I'll be honest with you. I use that a lot because I can then just be like, okay, tell me the exact dimensions of the story, and you can kind of see what's going on. Then you can also Command T and then just resize this to get, the exact, bam, like that. You can see everything's kind of fitting in there nicely. If things stick like this, you see how it like sticks to the edges? You can also go into view and snap. And when you turn that off and uncheck it, it won't snap to like any edges. You can get like really precise movements. So something that looks pretty good. I'm going to hit enter because we were transforming. Enter on the transformation. And then I'll just click this play button. And then that's it. And then now I'll say open like that. And just like that, I have my Instagram story here. And the reason why these little white areas are here is because that was the yellow area, the yellow borders on the export. So if you noticed, whenever I go to, let me process that one more time and show you. If I go back to default settings and I go into Instagram story, and then I click on process, what you'll notice is that there are these yellow areas like this, and you'll see that because I had the original image something like this, you'll see that the top and bottom where the yellow is isn't filled entirely. And the reason why that's there specifically, and I'll click on open and I go back here, there we go. You can see that there is actually quite a big area here, white, and that's there because, for example, if you put this as a story, and the top part here is where like your user name is going to be. This is where the the type field is going to be. So you don't want important information in that area when you are deciding on your crop. So the yellow area does get cropped into the photo, but that yellow area is a less kind of like relevant area, and you want to avoid that anyway. So that's what that yellow area is for when that pops up. Okay. So yeah, aside from that, the rest of it's pretty straightforward, and I hope you enjoyed this little overview. If you have any questions, please let us know. But otherwise, this gives a good idea on how to use this. If you're trying to use the Infinite Retouch panel and you would like to see more videos, please go to infinite-tools.com where you can see more videos and more information about the panel.